Welcome to the You Were Designed for Greatness podcast. Each week we will bring you inspiring tips, stories, and ideas to help you be all that you can be, discovering your greatness. Featuring Donna Tashton. Donna is a transformational life and health coach, a highly sought-after public speaker, and the founder of Vibrant Living. She has helped hundreds find a better life, free of stress and living the greatness they were truly designed for. And now, your host, Donna Tashton.
Welcome to podcast number 49. And I want you to stay tuned all the way to the end because I have an exciting opportunity for all the moms out there. So be sure to check it out. And now let's step into my conversation with Brandy. Well, Brandy, I wanted to welcome you to You Were Designed for Greatness. I've been looking forward to this conversation with you, and we've spent a little bit of time getting to know each other. Why don't you say hello to everyone?
Hi, everyone, and thank you, Donna, for the opportunity to be a part of your podcast today.
Oh, I'm happy to have you here. So why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
All right. So Brandy Goolsby, I am a director at Wind River Systems. It's a technology company, and I am responsible for ecosystem and market development across 5 verticals. We service aerospace and defense, telco, industrial, medical, and automotive.
That sounds like a mouthful.
It is a mouthful.
That's a lot of technology. There are so many people listening that can't even work their iPad. And then Zoom trying to figure out everybody's Zooming now, you know, it's like.
Yes.
Oh, so lots of technology, lots of impact, a lot of different spheres that you are impacting. So how did you end up there?
Oh, wow. It's been a career path. It's been a journey. And that's probably the best way to describe it. It's a journey. It wasn't a sprint. It wasn't a marathon. You know, what's that saying? It's not a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. And that's exactly what this has been. And it's been some twists and turns along the way. And I've made a number of transitions and pivots in terms of my career path and my development. But I started off, I graduated from Michigan State with my MS in electrical engineering, went on to General Motors working in software controls, and I was doing engineering work. And that was great for a period of time, but I knew I wanted to do something bigger, something more, and I wanted to be more on the upfront development side, the concept side. And so I went back at my master's in business administration from the University of Detroit Mercy, did that once I completed that, and that was a 3-year process. And that was interesting because in that there was challenges in terms of the time, me leaving my house, going to work, going from work back to campus, coming home, doing the homework. So, and that is like the rigor of when you have your eye on something, you jump right into the process and you figure out how to adapt and to adjust to those things. But it doesn't remove the fact that it is a challenge, and you try to do it with as much ease and grace as possible.
So your average day went from about 6 a.m. to 1 a.m.?
Yeah. Easy.
Roughly? Yeah.
Yeah.
And you did it again and again and again for 3 years, working full-time and going to school part-time with travel and study and all of that.
And family and friend commitment.
Yes. Yep. All of that. So you had your eye on the goal of what you wanted to accomplish. And I suppose not everybody thought this was a great idea.
No, not everybody. And actually, as a part of this, I was trying to recruit other friends of mine to join me in the MBA journey. And 2 people jumped in the water with me. One person almost at the start said, nah, this actually isn't where I want to go. And then midway, the other person that jumped in the water with me, he was like, this is really not what I want to do. And he dropped out. So I was left by myself, and I was like, all right, we just gonna make this happen.
So you're a Michigan State alumni.
I am.
And
yes.
And as far as that goes, you shared a piece of advice you got about going there.
I did. So one of my academic counselors in high school basically tried to deter me from going to Michigan State. She told me, and I'm going to attribute this to more like maybe lack of understanding than anything, but she told me, she said, Michigan State isn't known for graduating Black people. And that was her sentiment at that time. And I was just like, that's where I'm going to go. And so I went, and I stand here today, like you said, I'm an alumni. So
yeah, awesome
that they do graduate Black people.
You are proof that they do. That's right. Yes. All right. So you got your master's in business, and then what happened?
So once I did that, then came the pivot, another transition. So I worked in terms of doing informal discussions with various people to try to identify where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do. Landed on strategy and planning so that I could get more in the upfront process and working with various functional groups so that you can put together kind of a compelling story around a product offering that, in my case, that was vehicles, right? So this is a consumer product. So you want to make it as appealing and address as many needs as possible for the consumer so that you can create that whole user experience that they use now in terms of terminology. And so, unfortunately, I left GM and I went over to Ford. And when I went over to Ford, it was like, it was perfect for me in terms of the growth and the experience. And one of the key things, and Donna, let me just back up real quick. When I left GM to go to Ford, it was at a time when basically, you know how they used to say Ford mortgaged the house? It was during that period. Alan Mulally had just got named CEO, and literally everybody was like, what are you thinking? Are you sure? And I was just like, yeah. This is the path. Whoever is there is the cream of the crop, and I'm going to learn from the best of the best. This is the way I'll be able to enhance my skill set and build on that formal knowledge that I gained in the classroom. And so, so with that, I went over to Ford. I stayed there for a number of years, and then I ended up transitioning over to FCA, and I worked in actually fuel economy strategies, working in their electrification strategy and planning group. So did that for a few years, and then transitioned again over to back to Ford. They brought me back and worked in innovation and planning, and was there for a short while before I went over to where I am now, which is Wind River Systems, doing technology. And one of the key pieces I want to share is when I was at Ford, I was working on the vehicle product. When I went to FCA, I got into the powertrain. So I was working under the hood. And then when I went over to Wind River, I got to interface, right, from a partner-facing perspective to actually identify technology partners that could augment our existing portfolio of products. And that is kind of, that technology is never seen or touched by the consumer, but it's the underlying technology that powers these different systems that you see, like IVIs and clusters and things like digital clusters, things like that, that is so amazing. But there's an operating system under there, there's middleware under there, there's development activity that you don't necessarily always see as the consumer, but it's Wind River that helps power and enable these type of technologies to exist and reside in the vehicle, and as well as in the other verticals that I described.
Yes. Wow, that's over my head. I just want to push a button and it to work.
And we enable that.
So all the work you do is so I can just push a button and then it works. So
That's exactly right.
okay, well, that is awesome. And it is amazing because I don't even have an idea, but the amount of work that goes behind the scenes so that the average consumer can push a button, or we can push a button and talk to somebody, and all of that. There's so much that's technology that's behind so many things that are happening today. So
yes.
Awesome. Great job you're doing. Oh my goodness. So you have anyone in your life that has been an impact in your life? Who are some people or that have spoken into your life or have made an impact?
Oh, there's a few women that instantly come to mind, and I'm gonna have to acknowledge, Denise Gray, Donna Bell, Carissa Millender. There's a number of women, and these women are standout to me because not only to what you just described, right, in terms of spoken into my life, but they've also demonstrated by example a level of integrity, a level of passion, a level of focus that inspires me, that demands more of me because I want to represent that example to the generation that comes after me. And so I number one, I'm thankful for the privilege to be in their presence and in their company. And then number two, I'm just so in awe with all that they do and all that they, all that they have accomplished, but also how they do it with passion and love and empathy. And for people that are their direct reports, as well as for those who don't necessarily have a direct working relationship with them, but that, because I don't work with these women, I've met them along the way in my career journey, but they literally we're still connected to this day in terms of, having lunches or coming together in some capacity, whether it's an event or whatever it may be. But the point I'm trying to make here is these women, and when you find these gems in your lives, you do not let them go. You keep that relationship, right? People talk about networking, but networking really is relationship. Building that and continue to maintain it.
Yep. There's networking where you just hand each other business cards and you never talk again, really. Right. And one of the things that COVID has brought into my life is the opportunity to sit and talk with people longer and having relationships and networking events. When we were isolated, it made us want that and draw us. Yes. So it's so important. It always was important, but I think this has brought out it's highlighted it.
I completely agree with you. This moment of pause has heightened our awareness to make sure we're connected.
That's right. Absolutely. So what has been you shared one of your favorite books with me, and with all of if we look over your life and just review it and all of the changes and all of the impacts, you shared with me a reading earlier. Would you like to share that with them and why this is important to you?
There's a couple of books. So one of the books that I like is Michelle Obama's book, Becoming. Okay. And that, to me, when I read that book, at the end of it, it's not a tearjerker by any means, but I found myself at the end of that book, like crying. And I was just like, and it wasn't tears of sadness. It was tears of revelation, of joy, of really beginning to understand how the pieces are connected with. And we talked about how sometimes in the midst of the chaos, in the midst of the transitions, you don't realize what's actually taking place, what's actually going to be on the other side of that. But once you do realize it, it's like, wow, it was just like, this is a beautiful tapestry of life and how it is truly seamlessly connected.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Anything else that you wanted to share about
Um,
you even mentioned
yeah.
the Bible verse as well. I didn't know if you wanted to share that.
And I mentioned what? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Verse.
Oh, a Bible verse. I do want to share that. In one other book, can I share one more book?
Yes, you may.
And then there's another book, Lean In by Cheryl Stansberg. I love this book. This book talks about, and it actually kind of reflects, again, my career path that I talked about in terms of the transitions. But the here is one of the analogies she gives in the book is life is not a ladder, but a jungle gym, or your career is not a ladder, it's a jungle gym. And you have to be able to sometimes go different paths and routes in order to get to the same result, which is, leading you to the top of the little trapezoid thing.
Awesome.
But yes, there is a scripture I would like to read. And this is the embodiment of what I believe God has for all of us as his children and what he's appointed for us. Job 23 talks about this too. Job, after he's gone through all these different transitions in his life, he says, he's like, God will do what he's appointed for me. But the scripture that I want to read is from 1 Peter 5, and it talks about, and I'm going to actually just focus on verse 8 because the whole thing is rather long, but this is verse 8. Be sober, well-balanced, and self-disciplined. Be alert and cautious at all times. The enemy of yours, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, fiercely hungry, seeking someone to devour, but resist him. Be firm in your faith against his attack, rooted, established, immovable, knowing that the same experiences of suffering are being experienced by your brothers and sisters throughout the world. You do not suffer alone. After you have suffered for a little while, the God of all grace, who imparts his blessing and favor, who called you to his own eternal glory in Christ, will himself complete, confirm, strengthen, and establish you, making you what you ought to be. So he's the one that's going to make you all that you create, all that he's created you to be. To him be the dominion, power, authority, sovereignty forever and ever. Amen. Thank you.
Awesome. So what's the main thing when you look at your life that stands out to you in that Bible verses?
That he's going to be the one that completes the work.
Yeah.
And I'm to work with his plan.
And we're a team working together. And
yes.
It helps us to relax in some of the pivots and changes that happen in our life to, I always say, look for the gift in the transition, look for the gift in the changes. Sometimes those things are not comfortable, and I call them gifts in sandpaper.
Mm-hmm.
They rub us wrong, but there's a gift in there. And when we discover
right.
It's so easy to look back on our life and you can see it. When you're in the middle of it, it's a little harder to do all of it. So that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us. And as we conclude today's conversation, is there any wisdom, advice, closing remarks that you'd like to make to our listeners?
The one thing I want to leave with with your audience is that there is greatness in all of us, and to take the time, the quiet time, to kind of listen and pay attention to where your passions, where your interests, what have you been doing in terms of your experiences, and identifying where are you being led to, what are you leading yourself to, what's happening, how is this tapestry coming together. And I would say, and it's okay not to know, but just take that time, that reflective time to focus in on what is your true north.
I love that. Well, thank you, Brandy, for being with us today and sharing your story with us. And I will look forward to us connecting more as
Absolutely
moves us on. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you, Donna.
Take time to get still and quiet and listen, because there is greatness in all of us. We were created by the Creator, who has designed you to be able to be great and amazing you. And as I mentioned in the beginning, I have a wonderful opportunity for the moms out there. It is called Profit from Your Passion, and it is a free online workshop, 5 days for about 30 minutes, that I take you through the ways to take your passions, your gifts, your side hustle, and actually make profit to turn it in. So many of us need that extra income right now. So you want to go to my website, iVibrantLiving.com, click on the tab, Profit from Your Passion.
Thank you for joining us on this powerful episode of the You Were Designed for Greatness podcast. Please share this with others who might enjoy it. For more info on Donna Tashton or to contact her, visit iVibrantLiving.com.